Everybody, JC here with another TNI toy review, and today we're going to take a look at the new DC Collectibles Teen Titans New 52 Kid Flash figure. And like with the other figures in this Teen Titans wave, this figure comes in your same type of window box packaging, same color highlights with white and red. You've got the Teen Titans logo up at the top and then the Kid Flash name at the bottom. The figure's clearly displayed in the window box packaging. On the one side you've got a colored in image of the character, and then on the other side you've got a picture of the actual figure. And it tells us this figure was sculpted by Amos Hemsley. Then finally on the back you've got a little thumbnail image of the figure with a little brief bio, and then down below it shows us all three figures in this Teen Titans wave with Wonder Girl, Superboy, and Kid Flash. And we looked at Wonder Girl yesterday and Superboy the day before. And all of these figures are out at comic and specialty shops now. Okay, so let's get this figure open and take a look at what's inside. Here's a look at the figure outside of the packaging. Now right off the bat, I've got to say, out of the three Teen Titan figures released in this initial wave, this one is probably my least favorite. I don't know, there just seems to be something a little bit off with the body. It just seems to be a little disproportioned in places. Most specifically in the shoulder area. They just kind of seem to stick out a little bit. And then on his feet just to me look a little bit too big. And then the other thing I don't particularly like is the big grin that they've given him for the facial expression. I just think that looks a little funny. Otherwise, I think the figure looks pretty good. I like how they've sculpted the wings on the side. And they're just soft plastic. And you probably do want to be careful because you could probably snap them off if you tried to bend them or anything. They're not really flexible at all. They've sculpted on his one shoulder, they've sculpted a T on the uniform for Teen Titans, and then on the other side he's got the lightning bolt, which looks nice. And then again he's got lightning bolts on his feet, and they've even like sculpted, you know, some treads on his boot. And I think maybe that's why maybe the feet look a little too big, because that tread they've sculpted around the edges of the foot just kind of make the feet look a little too big to me. Now, one thing I do want to point out with the paint, they've used a red metallic paint for the red parts, and then a flat, well actually it's somewhat metallic yellow as well, but on the chest area it looks like a little bit of red is bled through. I don't know how well it picks up, and it's not major or anything, but just something I want to note. And then the other thing is, on some of the joints, on some of the pegs on my figure, it looks like they didn't paint the clear plastic pegs, so you can see they kind of stand out, especially on the arm here. You can see at the elbow, they did not paint that clear plastic peg at all. Otherwise, though, again, I think the figure looks good. I like how the hair is sculpted, and they've done some nice washes in the hair. They've given him the red eyes, which stand out nicely. So just some kind of minor complaints, but definitely, you know, it just really kind of, like I said, out of the three, this is my least favorite figure. Okay, so scale-wise, this figure stands at just a little bit over 6.5 inches tall. He actually seems to be between the three Teen Titan figures, he actually seems to be the shortest of the bunch, just by a hair. At first I thought Wonder Girl was the shorter of the three, but actually it looks like Kid Flash is. Not by a whole lot, but seeing them all together, you can see that Kid Flash is just a little bit shorter than the other two. Now, I'm not familiar enough with the characters in the comic to know if he should be that short. If I remember correctly, at least pre-New 52, Impulse was a pretty young kid, whereas the others were older teenagers, so that would make a little bit sense to me if that remained to be true with the New 52 Kid Flash. And then, of course, he is definitely shorter than the New 52 Flash, which obviously, just like with the others, the adult should be the taller of the two. Okay, so let's look at articulation on this figure. Basically, we're looking at the same kind of articulation that we saw on the other two figures in this Teen Titans wave. Not as good as what we saw with like the Crime Syndicate figures recently released, but certainly better than what we saw with earlier released New 52 figures from DC Collectibles. So let's just go over the articulation real quick. The head is attached with the ball joint, so he can rotate the head good. He can also kind of pivot the head to the left and right. Doesn't have very much up and down movement though. There's no hinge, it's just a ball joint. The shoulders are attached with standard ball hinge joints, so he's got good rotation at the arm, and he can do the arm out good. He's got a bicep swivel, and then he's got a single hinged elbow, so he can bend his elbow about that much. Then they've got wrist swivels, fairly low on the arm, but he does have the swivel there. There is no hinge joint though on the hands, so there's no up and down movement with the hands. And then just like with the other figures, there's no midsection articulation at all, no swivel or ab crunch. The legs are attached with ball joints, so you can do the splits about that much. You can do the legs forward about that much, and then you can do it back, kind of out and back. There's no thigh swivel on these figures. Single hinged knees, or single jointed knees, so he can bend his knee about that much. And then this one actually has no swivel at the foot, like we saw with Superboy and Wonder Girl. So that's actually one less point of articulation than the other figures. He does have the hinges at the foot, so he can do the foot up and down, but there's no swivel at the wrist or at the ankles. And then he's got two peg holes on the bottom of his feet. Now, one thing I also want to point out is, at least on my figure, some of the joints have become loose very quickly, especially like on the knee here. So just something to be wary of with the loose joints. So they seem a little more delicate on this figure than with the other two figures. I don't know if it's just my figure or if that's something that's just common with all the Kid Flash, but just something to be wary of. Okay, so that's my review. As I said, out of the three Teen Titans figures, this one is definitely my least favorite. I don't like the big grin on his face, and like I said, the body just looks a little disproportionate to me. And then also this figure suffers from a little bit of loose joints, and doesn't even have quite as much articulation as the other two figures. It's not horrid, and definitely, I mean, if you're collecting the Teen Titans, you'll probably definitely want to add this one to your collection, so you have Kid Flash. But definitely, out of the three figures in this wave, this one is probably definitely my least favorite. So, as I mentioned before, all three of these Teen Titan figures, Kid Flash, Superboy, and Wonder Girl, are out at comic and specialty shops. So if you want to pick these up, start checking now. And that's my review, and until next time, I'll check you later.